Hi everyone, I'm Jeremy Davis and welcome to this third and final instalment on my video implementation series about how to implement my 7-step business presentation planner. If you don't have a copy of the planner already, just jump on to jeremymarkdavis.com/planner and you can get a copy of the planner there. So in this video, we're going to look at the remaining elements of the presentation, which are the middle of the presentation and the end. Now, the middle of the presentation is very straightforward. We've already told people in the overview of the presentation what it is we're going to say, and in the middle of the presentation, we are simply saying it. There's a technique you can use around using segues between points in the middle of the presentation to make a link between one point and another so that it also flows nicely as you're moving through those points before you come to the end of your presentation. Now, as you come to the end of your presentation, we're at a really important time, and the first thing I'd like to suggest is that any kind of questions that might come from the audience should be addressed prior to doing a final summary and conclusion. If you think about business presentations you've been to in the past and you think about where do questions get handled, typically most people will say they get handled at the very end of the presentation. And when I ask people what normally happens when the presenter says, are there any questions, people will normally say, well, the most common thing that happens is people say, no, we don't have any questions, and the presenter kind of sits down and says something along the lines of, okay, well, that's it. That's a really flat and kind of fizz out way of ending a presentation. So we don't want to get into the habit of doing that. And so therefore, what you want to do is do something along the lines of saying to people, well, before I do a final conclusion and summary today, I'd like to open the floor up and invite any questions that people might have. So clear those questions out first, and having done that, what you're ready to do is then move into the next and penultimate part of the presentation, which is the summary. Now, when you do the summary, a couple of things. The first is, before you go into the summary itself, say the words in summary or words to that effect. People's attention will just go up and down during a presentation. That's what happens. It doesn't matter how good of a presenter you are. People's attention is just going to go up and down. And so by saying the words in summary, you immediately get people's attention up at a very high level. And that is then a great opportunity to really go in and highlight key information from the presentation as it relates to the points that you're summarising. So what I mean is, don't simply say, in summary, we covered A, B and C. You can say, so in summary, we talked about A, and the most important thing for everyone to take away in relation to A is blah, blah, blah. Then we touched on B, and what's critical about B is da, da, da. You get the idea. So you do that during the summary. And then we're ready for our final call to action. So the call to action is what it is we would like the audience to think or do as a result of the presentation. This can be linked in very closely to the purpose that we stated up front as to why we're giving the presentation itself, and it applies to all presentations, not just presentations that have some kind of a sales theme to them. So when we give the call to action, we want to make sure that we summarise what it is we want people to think or do, and we really want to do that in one sentence, and then quite simply leave it there. Let that be the last thing that people hear, or as I once heard it described, leave those final words ringing in the audience's ears. Be seated and you're done. So that is the final part of the presentation, and those three key aspects of questions, summary and a very strong call to action are what we want to see in the last part of the presentation.